The views and opinions of this program are those of the hosts, guests, and callers. There is substantial risk of loss in trading futures and options, which you should carefully consider prior to trading. Well, as we are gearing up for the USDA Prospective Plantings numbers coming up next week, we've been seeing various private estimates ahead of that report and more. And we have new acreage estimates, planting intentions to take a look at from FBN, Farmers Business Network. Joining us to tell us more about it, he is Director of Market Advisory and Brokerage with FBN. Cody Bills is with us here today on the show. Cody, thanks so much for joining us. Hope all is well.
Yeah, thank you, Jesse. Appreciate it. We're excited to share a little insight that we got from nearly 1,000 farmers that participated in this survey. So we're pretty excited about sharing these results, and hopefully it has an impact on your own risk management strategies.
Well, I would love to just top line here. Everyone's been talking about more corn acres, more corn acres, more corn acres. Was that reflected in your guys' findings?
Yeah. I guess we will echo that chant, I guess, this year. We are from the survey responses, the data points to an increase to 95.5 million acres into corn. So that is up 4.9 million acres from last year. It's up 1.5 million acres from the Ag Outlook Forum. And then for soybeans, we're actually expecting acreage to slide a little from last year, down 3.6 million to 83.5 million acres we're projecting there for soybeans. And that's 500,000 below Ag Outlook Forum numbers.
I know you guys have some state-by-state breakdowns with this as well. Talk about that perspective. It looked like the I states in particular is where we are seeing maybe potentially the biggest reduction in some of those soybean acres, Cody.
Yeah, absolutely. Indiana, Iowa, Illinois, all showing reductions of acreage in soybean, substantial reductions, and into corn. And, when you look at corn acres, like they were added in nearly every state. That's what we were seeing. And particularly one of the things that we noticed was cotton acres going out of cotton into corn. We also noticed some sorghum acres being shifted over into corn. And we also noticed in North Dakota, spring wheat acres going out of spring wheat and into corn in North Dakota as well. So all playing a role in kind of increasing those corn acres to something that's really on the higher side of analyst expectations.
One thing that stood out to me, everyone's been talking about higher corn acres and everything else seeing reductions. I know you just kind of alluded to some of those different states where we're seeing some of those moves, but winter wheat acres actually expected to increase slightly. Talk about those results.
Yeah, so we are using, for the winter wheat numbers, we were using the seedings report that was released in January. And then the poll results really show a change in spring wheat and durum. And so we kind of blended those together in our general wheat acreage number, which was 46.3 million acres, up 200,000 acres from last year, but down 700,000 acres from the Ag Outlook Forum in January. I mean, when we look at it, I guess what we saw was people shifting from durum into spring wheat in Montana. So that resulted in spring wheat acres being down. That resulted in durum acres being down 300,000 acres, and then spring wheat was lower, but primarily offsetting the increase in Montana was North Dakota, which shifted out spring wheat into corn. So kind of interesting shifts when you look at all of the acres together. Yeah, we're expecting the acres to increase between corn, soybeans, and wheat together, but we are seeing again acres come out of cotton and some out of sorghum into those commodities.
Could you give a little bit of maybe a high level kind of overview of the methodology that you guys use with this survey of folks across the U.S.? Can you talk about that aspect for us just a little bit?
Yeah. So first of all, FBN is a member a member company, and so we have thousands of members across the U.S. And so we send out the poll saying, hey guys, it's time to participate in the survey results. And so they get in there and they put down last year's acres and this year's acres for the crops that they grow. We had, like I said, nearly 1,000 participants in this survey. And so it gives us a lot of confidence around the corn and soybean numbers that we project. Ultimately, we look at on a state-by-state basis, and then we estimate the state, and then ultimately estimate the national acreage there. One of the things that I wanted to point out is, we've been doing this for 5 years. So it's not like the first time that we decided, hey, this is going to be meaningful for producers. This is something that generally our customers really appreciate. It's like one of the most open report emails that we send out. And so it's meaningful. What we know is that Prospective Plantings report that comes out next week, that usually injects volatility into the market. And so if there's a data-driven way that can give you a little bit of a bias going into that, you've kind of selected your insurance, you kind of know what your insurance is for producers, you kind of know how your exposure is, and now we're trying to provide some insights, some data-driven bias as to where we think the USDA might hit with their numbers, and then that hopefully is something that producers can internalize and ultimately deploy into some sort of risk management strategy.
Well, and you took the next question out of my mouth there a little bit, but just thinking about risk management, that's what it all comes down to on the operation, knowing your break evens and looking at these numbers. And you mentioned the volatility that the markets will get when we get the USDA data and more. So, I mean, again, just it comes back to managing your risk and your position and more when it comes to your specific operation, when folks look at data points like this, right, Cody?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, that's one of the things that we do over here. We're in the brokerage and advisory business, at least at that part of FBN's business, and we work with producers every day on this. And one thing that you can be rest assured is that everyone has a different situation. Everyone has a different risk profile. Your acres are different. Your insurance selection may be different. And so we just think it's so important to just model it from a holistic standpoint. Start with how many acres you're producing, layer in your insurance, layer in any futures and options or any sort of cash obligations, cash contract sales that you have, and calculate the break-evens regularly, because they change. And you may be exposed to different price and yield scenarios throughout the year. It's so important to just understand in a matrix of realistic yield and price scenarios, what are you trying to defend against? Like, that's the way we think about it over here. Like, what price and yield scenario are we trying to defend? And then coming up with a strategy that specifically addresses it.
Well, of course, we always got to remember that risk of trading futures and options can be substantial. Cody, great perspective. Yep. And I know folks can take a look at the full acreage report from FBN, the planting intentions, fbn.com/planting. Final thoughts, anything else you would mention or reiterate to folks here today?
The one thing I'd say is that it's free to become a member at FBN. So, like, this is not the only way that we're trying to bring value back to producers with meaningful data insights. We do a bunch of other things. And one of the things that I think is incredible, particularly this year, is price transparency tools that we offer for inputs. I mean, you can go in there, you can upload a receipt of something you purchased historically. And because you're contributing that data, you then get access to the forecast, the price trends of these ingredients and these inputs. And it just can add more insight. It gives you a more informed decision when you're making those purchases. So, we do so many different things to try and help improve farm decisions throughout the year. This is just one of them. It's obviously the most relevant right now. But we're just really excited to be able to share these sort of insights back to farmers.
Well, again, folks can find the full planting intentions report results from FBN online, fbn.com/planting. With that, Cody Bills, Director of Market Advisory and Brokerage for FBN. Good to connect with you. Thanks for joining us on the show today, and we'll look forward to talking again soon.
Thank you.
Make sure to subscribe to the Market Talk YouTube channel. You can watch our latest interviews with top market analysts in the country, find bonus content, and much more. It's easy. Just go to youtube.com/@MarketTalkAg and hit the subscribe button. Or you can search for Market Talk Ag on YouTube.